You want me to put that on my tudger?
This one's wife, Scobie, did leak the names. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. We know that the improbably named plastic-face Weasley-Lick-Spittle Lieutenant Omid Scobie is there to do the bidding of this one's wife. Despite his protestations to the contrary, very few people accept that he doesn't have a direct line with this one's wife. After all, she was forced to admit in the court case against Associated Newspapers that she had briefed individuals with regard to material that was to appear in Finding Freedom. Let's not beat around the bush. She might as well have just handed over her personal diaries to Scobie and said, "Write this." Similarly, she has fed information, lies, revision of history to the increasingly isolated Scobie, who has had no option other than to continue to nail his colours to the Sussex mast. Serious journalists pour scorn on him. The public not only think that he's unusual looking, think that he's a peddler of lies and bullshit, and therefore his options are much reduced. There are many revisions of history and lies contained within the publication, but perhaps one of the most serious is to suggest that the King and the Princess of Wales are in essence racist because they speculated about the colour of Prince Archie's skin. As I've explained before, this either didn't happen or the speculation was of the innocent nature that always associates the forthcoming birth of a child. Yet this one's wife, seen through the distortion field of her narcissism, needs to make it into something all the more sinister as part of her need for control through smearing. There has then been something of the brouhaha because the supposed royal racists have been identified in a Dutch publication, with the King's name and that of the Princess of Wales appearing there. Scobie, cowardly little shit that he is, claims that it's not his fault and that somebody's undertaken a translation error, which doesn't actually stack up because you'd have to have something there in the first place to translate. But some sterling research by an individual demonstrates that in actual fact the leak must have come from Scobie himself. Referenced by Strix the Owl, who is a Redditor on the Reddit subthread Saint This One's Wife, they use her full name, as you know I do not, has located a particular piece of research by somebody on Tumblr. And therefore, we move to Tumblr, and the author is somebody called @EmmaShouldBeWriting. This is what has been unearthed. I'm a professional Googler, i.e. a research librarian, and here's what I found in relation to the announcement of the deal for what the rights were sold in relation to Bell Endgame. The Daily Express has an article from July 2022 about the book that included the tweet Omid posted announcing it. "I can finally share," Scobie wrote, "that I'm working on a brand new book. So excited to be working again with Carrie Thornton at Daystreet at HarperCollins US and Ms. Lisa Milton at HQ Stories." There's then provided a link to the Daily Express story containing this tweet. It then continues by explaining, "Next, when I searched for Scobie and HarperCollins together specifically, I found an article that talked some about the deal. Scobie sold world English rights to a currently untitled book set for 2023 to Carrie Thornton at Daystreet. Albert Lee at United Talent Agency brokered the deal on behalf of Scobie. The article's source is the August 2022 Publishers Weekly announcement. A link is provided for that. Next, I looked up everyone these articles identified. Carrie Thornton and Daystreet, which is an imprint of HarperCollins, also published Finding Freedom. Day Street has the North Americans publishing rights. Lisa Milton is a publishing agent for the UK and Commonwealth rights. Albert Lee is a literary agent based in New York City. Before becoming a literary agent, he was an editor and a journalist. I think he was also instrumental in publishing Finding Freedom, but I haven't been able to find confirmation. I did try to search for Omid Scobie and Xander, limiting the date range from July 2022 to October 2023 to exclude this week's tsunami, but all the search results came back in Dutch, which I don't speak. Well, so what does all of this mean? Well, Emma writes as follows. Well. Thank you, my darling. The person that provided the above information wrote anonymously, but it has been picked up by Emma, who explains it. This information applies only to selling rights for an English book to an English-speaking country, but I often sell my translation rights for my self-published books, so I'm used to this. Publishers will take one of two options: World English or World Rights. World English is what it says on the tin. English language rights, usually split between US and UK Commonwealth. With this, you handle foreign translations yourself, although publishers will work together. World rights is the whole shebang, including translations. When it's this, the publisher then shops around for translations, and whatever the foreign publisher pays for it comes off your advance. World English rights means that Scobie sold just English and held onto the foreign translation rights. Day Street would have then sold the UK Commonwealth rights to Harlequin, but Scobie's agent, not the publisher, his agent would have shopped the translation rights, which means that Harlequin did not send the manuscript to Xander. Omid Scobie's agent did. And his agent would have sent the manuscript that Omid Scobie provided as a final copy for translation. So this research and the interpretation that has been provided by someone who's familiar with this publishing world explains that because of the way that the rights have been handled, Omid Scobie has sent the final copy, which is then sent for translation through his agent. Which then means that whoever mentioned Kate and King Charles would either have to have been the interpreter just adding it in of their own volition, which seems highly improbable, the agent adding it in, why would they bother, or Omid Scobie included it in the first place, and therefore he knew full well what he was providing, that it would be provided to the Dutch translator, who would then translate it as the King and the Princess of Wales, which not only shows Scobie to be a liar, but it also demonstrates that it was an intentional act on his part for the purposes of ensuring that his information was leaked and that the names and identities of the supposed royal racists was released and entered circulation. Accordingly, Scobie lies on Dutch TV about not giving names, when in actual fact that he did. The fact is, it's not a translation error. Translators would never ever add any content to a translated text. The fact is, Scobie has included this, he sent it, and it's been translated because he wanted it out there. Why did he want it out there? Because, of course, it would benefit his handler. And, of course, once again, it demonstrates the delusional nature of this one's wife, that she believes that this is a good idea. It may well be the case that there could be legal ramifications here by mentioning them in this publication could well be defamatory, and legal action might well be taken by both the King and the Princess of Wales against Omid Scobie, which would of course delight many people. And furthermore, if there was a legal action, it would necessitate the disclosure of information that culminated in him writing what he wrote, which would also involve this one's wife. Therefore, if the King and or the Princess of Wales are motivated to take action in this regard, it could well expose this one's wife even further in relation to showing the close links between her and Omid Scobie and demonstrating the chain of communication that occurred. That, of course, is some way in the future. But this research and analysis demonstrates this. Omid Scobie did leak the names through his own manuscript to the Dutch publication as he was undertaking a smear by proxy on behalf of this one's wife. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.